9 bone-chilling horror clips that will haunt you forever. The shocking truth revealed in the dead of night. When the shadows whisper secrets, the world becomes a stage for horror that most dare not acknowledge. Each of the clips haunting the internet tells a tale so gripping it clenches your heart and leaves your mind racing with terror. Picture it: a flickering light catching the eye of a child, only to reveal a figure with hollow eyes staring back from the dark corners of their room. Or a family lounging in the living room, blissfully unaware as something crawls behind them, its breath heavy, hungry. It feels like the walls themselves sigh, holding in the chilling madness just below the surface. Reported sightings, unexpected disappearances, and eerie sounds have made these clips the stuff of nightmares. In one, a girl holds up a seemingly harmless vintage toy, as shiny, rusted dull. But the moment it cuts to her giggles, the smile fades. What once seemed playful becomes a scream frozen in time. The doll's painted grin twists into a grimace as the video glitches and a static-filled whisper echoes. Playtime's ended. The locals gather around, eyes wide and hearts pounding, as they replay the chilling scene over and over. The air thick with fear, they exchange hushed whispers. You don't believe, do you? That's just a trick. Tension crackles like static electricity, and curiosity hangs like a noose, begging for someone to take a leap into the unknown. What is it that draws people into the clutches of such darkness? A fatal thrill? A morbid fascination? Just as the suspense peaks, we meet our next storyteller, a seasoned ghost hunter with a vested interest in the unseen. You need to see this, he says, breathless, as he unveils fresh footage that promises to shake the very core of our beliefs about reality. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. And as the video rolls on, emotions swirl as if we're in a freeze frame of time. The air is electric, thick as fog, suffocating, as the screen reveals a lonely road at twilight. The figure lurking behind a tree bends and twists, stretching impossibilities. Eyes bulging with shock, we're drawn closer to the screen, caught between fascination and terror. What is that? A voice trembles from the crowd, but no one dares move. The anticipation is palpable, pulling the viewers into a web of questions. What happens next? Who or what is waiting for them just out of sight? And with each unanswered query, we linger on the edge of darkness, ready to plunge deeper into the mystery. The screen flickered, and the shadows twisted like chaotic smoke. Those gathered leaned in, breath held tight in their chests. Something primal gripped them, a fear not easily defined, a voice in the pit of their stomachs whispering for them to run, yet they were rooted to the spot, eyes locked on the bizarre figure in the frame. The ghost hunter, a man marked by the experiences of a lifetime spent chasing the unexplainable, glanced over his shoulder. "This was filmed last week," he murmured. His voice trembled but bore the weight of authority. "Right here, on the edge of town." The video continued, showing a perspective that felt wrong, like a creeping sickness in the evening tranquility. The figure was now defined more clearly. Long limbs stretched unnaturally, and its broken posture seemed human yet impossibly bent. It tilted its head, as if sensing the energy pulsing from the audience. The colors seemed to drain from the world around it, leaving only shades of gray. Gasps erupted amongst them. A woman clutched her husband's arm, nails digging into his skin as she leaned in, just a tad too close. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible, laced with terror. "What does it want?" "No one knows," the ghost hunter replied, shaking his head slightly. But whatever it is, it's hungry. Just then, the footage shifted abruptly. An unsettling noise filled the room, a deep, guttural growl that rattled through their bones. Some spectators recoiled, while others exchanged wide-eyed looks that spoke volumes. The crowd swayed like reeds in the wind, oscillating between horror and an inexplicable desire to know more. Then the camera jerked violently, catching fleeting glimpses of fumbling feet and flashes of panic. A scream pierced the stillness. It was real, not a part of the video. A man stumbled into the room, disheveled and breathless, eyes wild and glistening with terror. "It's not safe. You have to listen." Chatter erupted, voices overlapping as they processed the sudden, visceral reality. The ghost hunter motioned for silence. "What did you see?" he demanded. "Out there," the man gasped. "I saw it crawling through the bushes. It was watching me. I swear." His body quaked, drenched in panic. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, glancing towards the dimming light outside as if daring it to come closer. "What does it want with us?" questioned a teenager, her voice breaking. I don't know. But it's coming for this town. There's no stopping it." The gravity of his words crashed over them. An impossible reality crushed the tension into something darker, denser. An unseen connection tied their fate together, each heart drumming harder in sync. Faces were stricken, brows lined with worry. The ghost hunter swallowed hard, running his fingers through his hair. "We need to stay together. We need to." Suddenly, a loud bang echoed from outside, followed by an unnatural, unearthly sound that seemed to provoke the very air around them. Windows rattled violently, the lights dimmed, and a chill swept through the crowd, freezing their fear. "Get away from the windows!" someone shouted, lunging instinctively toward the back. But when they turned, their bodies anchored in place. The ominous figure had manifested once again, now standing right outside, silhouetted against the waning light. It seemed impossibly close, staring back through the glass, hollow eyes reflecting their horror. As time halted, a chilling realization coursed through everyone. Whatever darkness had been lurking was now awake, watching, ready to consume. What would they do next? How could they protect themselves against the unknown? The thoughts swirled in their minds, thick as fog, and just then, a voice whispered from the shadows behind the window. "Join us, it won't stop until you do." The room fell into suffocating silence, and the screen went black, leaving only a heartbeat echoing in the void. Panic rippled through the crowd, a taut string ready to snap. The ghost hunter stood at the forefront, motionless, as his eyes darted between the window and the shaking figures clinging to each other. The moment felt suspended, like time itself had decided to join the frozen horror, manifesting every heartbeat as a countdown to something monstrous. "Everyone, please!" he shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of urgency. "We need a plan. We can't just stand here." Some whispered prayers, others glanced at the door, as if contemplating escape, their faces a canvas of fear. A young man in the back, his voice steeped in disbelief, yelled, "What can we possibly do? Look at it!" His point was clear as they all turned back to the window, dread pooling in their stomachs. The figure lingered, the hollow eyes fixated on them, hungry and unblinking. It was as if it could smell their fear, an instinctive predator savoring the scent of prey. Then, just as the air thickened with despair, a loud crash shattered the tenuous stillness. The glass pane splintered under the strain of an unseen force. "Run!" someone shouted, but panic fed chaos as bodies surged toward the exit, colliding in a frenzy. The ghost hunter shouted over the chaos, "Don't separate. Stay together." His voice was barely audible, drowned out by the chaos of fleeing souls desperate for safety. The room pulsated with fear, a living organism made up of frantic heartbeats and urgent breaths. As they stumbled backward, the figure glided closer, its limbs rendering unnatural motions an impossible ballet of predation. Shadows danced around it, flickering as if attempting to escape its grasp. Fingers clutched at fabric, eyes wide with terror, and in that turmoil, a woman cried out, "What does it want?" Her voice pierced through the commotion, raw and pleading. The ghost hunter stepped forward. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it feeds on fear. Don't let it see you panic." A moment of recognition passed over the group. They all understood then that to be afraid was to be vulnerable, to be devoured. With adrenaline surging, they began to rally together, huddling around the central desk. The ghost hunter's presence took charge amidst the chaos. "Listen," he said firmly, "we've got to confront this. We need the lights." He glanced at the shadows creeping closer, the creature sensing their resolve. "There's a switch," someone near the back shouted, pointing toward the wall. "Over there." Nervously, they surged toward it, as the sound of claws scratching the wall echoed behind them. "Hurry!" the ghost hunter urged, and one brave soul lunged forward, flicking the light switch. The room burst into brightness, illuminating every corner, every terrified face. But the figure paused, wreathed in darkness and shadow. Its fearsome form dissolved slightly in the new light, its eerie shape no longer as defined, now just grotesque, but not as imposing. But the relief was short-lived. The growl from earlier returned, this time amplified, a rumbling the earth itself seemed to resonate with. They could all feel it. This was a warning. Suddenly, a flicker of the lights. They dimmed before pulsing wildly like a heartbeat that matched the growing unease in their bones. The lights flickered once more, and then darkness. Screams erupted as they scrambled, the glow illuminating the terror again, just for a moment, a fleeting glimpse of the figure breaking through, crashing into the room with a precision that shattered their fragile hope. The air thickened. It was happening too fast. The chaos was so visceral. The ghost hunter, heart racing, shouted, "People, back to the door. We can't let it have us." Yet in that frenzy, as they stumbled and clawed their way back towards the exit, another whisper cut through the air, darker than the shadows creeping in. "Join us before it's too late." A figure emerged from the corner, not the monstrous silhouette, but one who had once been a part of the crowd. Eyes hollow, desperation and darkness intertwined, an unsettling smile stretched across their face. The crowd stilled. Whispers ceased. A collective gasp pulsed through them. Their own fighting souls seemed to dim as fear was outmatched by something deeper, something dark and unsettling lurking within their own minds. What choices would they make in their moment of despair? Would hope guide them, or would they surrender to the shadow demanding their allegiance? As the figure loomed closer, enveloped in the darkness, a question lingered. What lay beyond this haunting? The silence broke like glass shattering against a wall. The crowd's breath hitched as they metabolized the threat. The ghastly figure in the corner. Eyes wide, mind swirling, they were paralyzed by that unsettling smile. "Don't listen to it," the ghost hunter shouted, his voice raw and thrumming with urgency. He stepped forward, ready to confront the embodiment of their fears. "It's trying to break us. We must hold on to what is real." But hesitation crept into the hearts of the onlookers. The figure, once familiar yet now cloaked in something grotesque, extended a hand, beckoning them. "Join us," it crooned, a voice thick with allure. "Imagine a world void of pain. Here, we thrive in the darkness together." Fingers tightened around clothes, and breaths mingled, heavy with uncertainty. The ghost hunter pushed through, straining against the weight of the moment. "Fight it. We're not alone. We have each other." With every step he took, the shadows retreated slightly, but they slithered back, restless and hungry. The creature at the corner twisted its form, magnetizing the fearful gazes of those around it. Fear is a formidable tether, and they felt it anchoring them to the ground. Among the crowd, a woman, her tears glistening in the light, whimpered, "What if it's right? What if we could escape the fear?" The pitiful look in her eyes burned into the hunter's mind. He stepped closer, adrenaline pulsing through him. What kind of escape takes away our freedom? We can't let it win. But doubt snaked through the congregated bodies. Whispers began, a soft susurration that filled the air. What if it's safer to join? What if there's no way out? The surrendering voices turned into a murmur that burrowed beneath the ghost hunter's skin. Suddenly, the lights flickered ominously. The shadows carried with them the weight of despair, slithering along the walls, inching their way toward the crumbling resolve of the crowd. The hunter shouted, "Concentrate. Focus on your will to survive. Whatever it is feeds on your weakness." The dim light warped once again, illuminating the ghostly figure, which now appeared to ripple and churn as if made of liquid shadow. Gripping one another, fighting back, they formed a chain, but the pull of the darkness grew stronger, a tornado of despair drawing nearer. "Look!" a man cried out, pointing toward the desk. "The old books. They might hold a clue." "Books?" the hunter echoed in disbelief. "How can words fight this?" But desperation fueled the group's will. They pushed forward, desperate hands rifling through the tomes, pulling free anything they could find. Ancient texts on banishment, territorial markers, tales of warding off evil, each page a fortress against the creeping dread. Suddenly, a warning howl echoed, vibrating through the floors and rattling bones. The creature began to screech, its voice tearing through the air, reverberating deep in their chests, as if it wanted to rip the fabric of their souls apart. "You will perish for denying me. Gather!" the ghost hunter shouted, rallying a group around him. "Speak words of power." He grasped an open page and began to recite an incantation, a rope of sound forming bonds against the dark. Another voice joined him, then another, building into a tapestry of defiance. The words surged forth, igniting a fire within the hearts of those who dared to resist. But just then a flash of light burst through the center of the room, blinding everyone. It felt like an explosion, then nothing. As darkness cloaked them, panic spread anew. When the light returned, the room lay eerily silent. They were no longer together. Disoriented screams bubbled as they appeared back in separate corners surrounded by the shadows, faces they had once known melting into the void. "Where are we?" someone cried. "Stay together," the ghost hunter roared, but the whispers had returned, swirling like a tempest. The grip of fear tightened, threads of their bond snapping one by one. And then, in the chaos, the seductive voice returned with fervor. "You're lost, aren't you? Give in. Embrace your fear," the ghost hunter floundered, searching the chaotic landscape for hope only to discover he stood alone, the swirling darkness vibrating with the soft hum of resignation. With a heart pounding louder than thunder, tension coiling tighter, he whispered fervently into the abyss, clinging to the last tendrils of something that might save them. But was salvation still possible, or had he finally lost them all? What unseen price would he have to pay to find his way through the shadows? Would he confront darkness within, or would he fall prey to its lure? The shadows pressed in, thick and suffocating. The air crackled with palpable dread, wrapping its fingers around the ghost hunter's throat. He dared not close his eyes, both terrified and desperate for clarity. "This isn't how it ends," he growled, steadying himself against the backdrop of despair. The whispers spiraled around him, twisted echoes of his friends spiraling into madness. Each murmur felt like a knife in his heart, a reminder of their unity, now corrupted. "Fight!" he roared into the darkness, hoping against hope that his words could penetrate the gloom. Not far from him, he could hear something incoherent and pained. "Help!" A voice wavered through the shadows, barely making it to his ears. It was faint, a lifeline cast in an ocean of darkness. His heart clenched. Was it one of them? Slowly moving, He forced himself toward the sound, pushing against the wet, slithering sensation of fear. As he drew closer, shapes twisted and danced among the shadows. Faces, once familiar, contorted in agony, mouths opening in silent screams. "No!" he shouted, gathering any remaining strength to rip through this nightmare. "This isn't real. Fight it!" But the voice cried out again, urgent and muffled, pulling at something deep inside of him. "Please, I can't breathe." A figure emerged from the haze. Was it Sarah? Her eyes locked onto his, sparkling with betrayal and sorrow. Tears streamed down her face as she reached for him, grasping at shadows as if they were chains binding her into the dark. "Don't let go. I'm here." He lunged, desperately extending his hand. But the air between them crackled with uncertainty, the darkness pulling her back, tugging at her with insidious glee. "You have to fight. Together," he shouted, his voice breaking. Another figure appeared, then another. The more they drew near, the more each of their faces twisted in agony. Their features blurred, blending into grotesque caricatures of love and loyalty. The whispers escalated into frantic pleas, a cacophony that ebbed and flowed like a haunting song. "Join us!" a voice called out, eerily calm amongst the chaos. The twisted figure of the dark entity re-emerged, eyes glinting with malicious delight. "You will find peace among us. Embrace the beautiful oblivion." It reached an elongated hand toward the crowd, beckoning them closer, seducing them with false promises. "No!" the ghost hunter screamed, shaking with agonizing resolve. "You are not their salvation. You lie." The room ignited with feral energy. A storm, swirling with despair and anger, formed around him. The energy surged, crackling, breaking through the haze of despair. The desperate energy of the crowd built an unyielding wall, their collective heart pounding with deceleration. "Focus!" the ghost hunter commanded. "We need to remember who we are. Remember our strength. Remember love." As if responding to his plea, a burst of warmth spread from him, illuminating the corners of the room, pushing back against despair like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Powerful emotion surged within the circle, lighting a spark of recognition in each face, each member of their group. They began to remember, to fight back against the longing to surrender. Even amidst the shadows, the tendrils began to retreat, hissing in anger. The creature writhed, losing its shape, frustration fueling its wrath. "You cannot win. You will always be afraid." It spat venomously. But as fear waned, a renewed sense of strength surged. The ghost hunter glanced around, determination rising. "Whatever you are, you have no hold on us. We will stand our ground." An electric silence hummed. Then, suddenly, everything surged in on itself. Like a balloon popping, darkness exploded outward, a flood of shadows soaking up light until everything dissolved into a suffocating void. He gasped, finding himself tumbling into nothingness, the haunting whispers becoming an echo of their collective will. Was this defeat or rebirth? Face down in the cold dread, a singular thought pierced the silence. What if they hadn't escaped at all? What if they had just turned their backs on the very thing that hunted them? The shadows encircled him, waiting with bated breath, eager to taste his resignation. What would it take to craft a path through this leg of dread? Would he dare to delve deeper, dive into the abyss, seeking answers hidden within? And was the answer in the shadows, or buried deep within himself? The moment the void faded, he found himself gasping on a rough, cold surface. He blinked, coaching reality back into focus. The shadows had receded, but they hadn't vanished completely. They clung at the edges, whispering suggestions of hopelessness, taunting him with echoes of his friends' cries. He shot upright, heart pounding against his ribs, as he scanned the dimly lit chamber. The thick, suffocating darkness still lurked in the corners, but now it breathed with tension, erratic and alive. Panic surged in his chest. Where were they? Sarah? Anyone? The words erupted from him like a plea for salvation. Silence swallowed his voice, the emptiness gnawing at the edges of his sanity. Then, faintly, he heard it, a scuffling noise, the scraping of something against the stone wall. He spun around, fueled by instinct, each footstep echoing through the damp chamber as he moved toward the sound. The stale air clawed at him, thick with the scent of age and decay. Is anyone there? He fired the question into the shadows like a flare, hoping against hope. The scuffling continued, a kind of frantic whisper. His chest tightened as dread paved the way for fresh memories of what had transpired. Those faces twisted in torment, the fervent pleas, had they truly escaped? Or was this merely another layer of deception? A figure emerged from the shadows, staggered by the darkness as if it were a physical force. It was a man, hunched over and wild-eyed. You? The man's voice trembled, straining with intensity. You need to understand. It's not over. Ethan? It took him a moment to recognize his friend, once a bastion of strength, but now a frail silhouette, eyes glinting with a mixture of fear and desperate wisdom. We're trapped. They're coming. Ethan's breathing was rapid, eyes darting around as if the very walls were closing in. Who's coming? What do you mean? Frustration boiled beneath the surface as he stepped closer, desperate for clarity. The shadows. Ethan swallowed hard, the lump in his throat visibly choking him. They feed on fear. They transform. We thought we could fight, but it's not just our friends. They'll convert anyone who wanders in here. The weight of his words hit like a slap. The reality of their plight bore down on him. Then we can't let them take us. We need to stand together. Ethan shook his head, a look of betrayal crossing his features. You don't understand. They're already here. Before he could question further, the walls trembled, the light flickering as if caught in a violent breeze. The shadows thickened around them, swirling with predatory intent. The whispers grew louder, a dark symphony that seemed to draw strength from their growing panic. He gripped Ethan's arm, the connection grounding him amidst rising chaos. We have to find the others. We can't let fear win. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the air, a cry layered in misery that clawed at their hearts. It echoed through the chamber, reverberating against the cold stone walls. Where is it coming from? He gasped. The horrifying resonance seemed almost alive, rising and falling with twisted pain. The shadows thrashed wildly, as if eager to devour the sound itself. Ethan's ashen face crumpled in despair. It's too late. We can't save them. No. The word erupted from his chest, raw and defiant. We can't give up. Tension thickened, a pulsing wave of dread enveloping them, and the shadows began to solidify, twisting into ghastly forms, faces carved from nightmares. Each apparition seemed to beckon, promising solace only through surrender. Fight with me, Ethan, he cried, even as uncertainty began to gnaw at his resolve. We stand or we fall together. Ethan hesitated, trapped between hope and impending doom. As the shadows stretched out, insatiable tendrils reaching for them, he knew they were running out of time. A decision loomed, heavy like the weight of the darkness itself. Would they succumb to the terror, or claw their way back into the light? And in that moment of choice, a surge of realization hit him. What if they weren't meant to just escape? What if their fight against despair was only beginning? The darkness quivered, anticipatory, as everything hinged on their next move. The air surged with a sudden chill, and he felt the shadows clawing at the edges of his sanity. Ethan's gaze, wide and pleading, was a mirror of his own rising fear. It felt like they were the last two souls in a world consumed, staring into the abyss where hope should have been. Quick! He urged, dragging Ethan back as malevolent figures twisted and writhed, reaching for them like phantoms drawn from some eternal void. The shadows seemed to hiss and swoop, mocking their plight. "We have to move." But as they stumbled deeper into the chamber, the screams echoed anew, weaving a chorus of despair that wove itself into the fabric of his soul. Each scream was another weight pressing down on him, threatening to crush him under its darkest tide. "They need help." Ethan's breath was ragged. "You don't understand, do you? They are beyond help. We need to find the light." With each word spoken, shadows darted closer, darting just beyond the fringes of vision. He felt the urge to look back, to stand against the terror that chased them, but something primal within him screamed to run. "Follow me," he shouted, leading the way, his heart pounding like a war drum. The path twisted and turned, stone steps spiraling downwards, leading them farther into the darkness. The echoes of their footsteps bounced off the damp walls, growing louder, merging with the whispers until they felt like a part of the very shadows themselves. "Is this the way out?" Ethan exclaimed, panic rising in his voice, desperation clinging to each word. "No, but we can find something, anything." The urgency in his voice felt like a lifeline, even to himself. And then they spotted it, a flicker of light, barely illuminating a doorway at the far end of the chamber. Hope flared anew in his chest, but he realized in that bleak moment that hope could just as easily be a trap. "Do you see that?" he gasped, pointing. The shadows around them shrank back, retreating with a pause that felt like a sinister breath. "I see it," Ethan muttered, his expression a mix of fear and determination. "But what if it's a trick? We can't let fear dictate our decisions." He pushed forward, urging Ethan with him. Their feet quickened, racing toward the light, shoving every chilling thought aside. But just as they reached the doorway, the walls thudded with a deep tremor, sending a spray of dust cascading down around them like falling stars in a perished sky. The shadows froze, creeping closer, almost as if they were waiting to seize the moment when they faltered. "Together," he shouted, grasping Ethan's arm tightly. The warmth of their connection grounded him in a space where hope felt fragile, yet unwavering. They surged forward, bursting through the threshold, and "Stop!" a voice bellowed, slicing through the air like a blade. They skidded to a halt. Before them stood a figure, draped in a billowing cloak that swallowed the light, its face obscured in shadow. "You're not ready," it whispered, voice soaked in sinister calm. "What do you mean?" "We have to save them," he insisted, desperation lacing every syllable. The dark figure lifted a hand, revealing jagged scars that glimmered like nightmares under the sparse light. "To gain freedom, you must be willing to sacrifice what you hold most dear." In that heartbeat, the dread pooled like ice in his veins. The echoes of their friend's screams tangled in his thoughts, intertwining with the figure's words. Suddenly, the darkness surged, enveloping them in a curtain of despair so thick it felt tangible. Panic clawed at his heart again, and he felt the gnawing fear of impending loss. "Are you willing?" the shadow asked, voice woven with malice, yet threaded with something deeper, a hunger for the truth. "Yes," Ethan shouted, unsure of what he was agreeing to. "Whatever it takes." But the weight of that promise crushed him. Would they dare to pay the price of liberty? Tension hung heavy in the air, thick and palpable. It became clear in that moment that their fight against darkness was only beginning, with chains of uncertainty binding them to shadows of their own making. But as they prepared to confront the enigma before them, he couldn't shake off a chilling question: what would they lose in the name of survival? The figure before them shifted slightly, as if sizing them up, and a sense of despair washed over him. The shadows seemed to inhale, drawing close as if waiting for the answer. Ethan's fingers trembled against his arm, a visible contrast to his earlier resolve. "What does it mean? What must we sacrifice?" He couldn't fully articulate his anxiety, but it surged in his chest like a wildfire. "Only the truths you hide in the dark," the figure replied, its voice hauntingly melodic yet filled with menace. Each word rolled off its tongue like poison. Can you face what you truly are, or will you cling to your illusions? Ethan swallowed hard. The accusing gaze of the figure drilled into him. What do you know about us? He shot back, defiance spilling from him, as if he were trying to reclaim some aspect of control. But the shadows pulsed and whirred, closing in like a vice. I know more than you can bear, the figure replied, a wisp of a smile creeping into its unseen face. The darkness does not lie. It reveals everything. He felt a shiver travel down his spine. Unease seeped in, recalling fragmented memories, thoughts long buried, and regrets he almost managed to forget. The echo of laughter turning into cries haunted him, mingling with the shrieks still reverberating through the chamber. Whatever it takes, Ethan mumbled again, this time staring into darkness rather than at the hope of liberation. I'm ready. Are you? The figure stepped closer, and shadows swirled, forming vague shapes. First, you must confront what you fear the most. Before they could process the implications, the air began to shimmer. The edges of the chamber blurred, and they were suddenly plunged into a vision. They stood in a sunlit park. Laughter rang clear and joyous. His younger self sat on the grass, tossing a ball to a girl with sparkling eyes. She beamed, full of light, and his heart swelled with the memory of innocence. But what loomed just behind her, an ominous shadow that darkened the scene, sent waves of dread coursing through him. Stop! No! He gasped, as the memory distorted. The girl's laughter twisted into wails, her face morphing into terror. Ethan! Help me! The shadows consumed the memory, dragging him and Ethan deeper into the nightmare. He staggered back against the unseen wall, breath hitching. I didn't mean for this to happen. I didn't want to lose her. The figure loomed closer, whispering, this is just the beginning. What will you relinquish? Her memory? Your resolve? Or maybe yourself? Panic bubbled in him. I'll give anything. Words spilled from him, desperate and reckless. Ethan's face paled. No! We can't! He turned towards the shadowy figure, now less defiant, brow furrowed with uncertainty. We still have a chance. We can fight. Can you? The figure mocked, the shadows laughing with it, dark tendrils curling around them both. To find the way back, you must lose what has tethered you to this world. It is the only way to reclaim the light. His pulse quickened, the weight of responsibility thrumming in his chest. Could it be true? Was the price of freedom too steep? But the shadows surged forward, howling, as if demanding a choice be made. What would he give? What would they lose? And was there a chance for salvation? Or would this sacrifice lead them to an even darker fate? Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. There was no turning back now. Then, just when they thought the darkness had taken hold, a pale light flickered across the chamber, illuminating something in the distance, a reflection of a long-lost promise. A trembling hope flickered within him. But what else lay in those shadows, waiting to be unleashed? The flicker of light drew them in, a beacon in the suffocating dark. Ethan's breath quickened, his heart pounding as the shadows raged around him. The figure watched, still smiling, knowing this moment was more than just a test, it was a game. Do you feel it? The figure taunted. That glimmer of hope can easily be extinguished. Just like her laughter. Ethan flinched. The girl's face flashed before him, momentarily wrested from the clutches of terror, bringing a swell of grief that made his throat tighten. He fought to keep his focus, to draw strength from her memory. We can't let fear dictate our choices. We've faced worse. Have you? The figure challenged. What have you truly faced? Have you confronted the horror that brewed inside you all this time? Or will you continue to hide it within the shadows? As the chamber thickened with darkness, their pulse echoed like a distant drum, vibrating through the stifling air. Ethan and his younger self were trapped in the same loop, memories wrestling, laughter intertwining with cries. The past pushed against the present, unyielding. The shadowy tendrils rattled through space, dragging him toward the haunted image. You want to reclaim that light? Then know this. Some truths come at a cost. Stop! Ethan yelled, rage boiling over. He stumbled forward, determined to claw back control. I'm done hiding. In that instant, the walls trembled, the ground quaking under their feet. Ethan sensed something shifting within him, a barrier breaking. A hidden truth he'd locked away began trembling against the edges of his consciousness, trying to break free. Tell me what you fear, the figure demanded, lowering its voice to a whisper that sent chills racing down Ethan's spine. The flickering light pulsed like a heartbeat, urging him to confront what lay beneath all the bravado. Images tumbled over one another, a feeling of inadequacy, the stinging guilt of loss, the weight of a promise unkept. The girl, her laughter brightening his darkest days, now hung as a ghost, a taunting reminder of everything he hadn't said. He started, but the words stuck in his throat like ash. His resolve crumbled a little more. I was afraid of failing her. The shadows rallied, swirling faster, pulsating in anticipation. They pressed in, the whispers growing louder, mocking him. And now? What will you sacrifice to end her pain? Everything, he shouted, desperation soaring. Just tell me what you want. The figure stepped closer, the edges of its form shimmering with dark power. Then embraced the darkness. Own your past while letting go of the weight that burdens you. Fear clawed at him. He glanced at Ethan, whose expression mirrored his own horror. What does it mean to own your past? Ethan asked, shivering. The figure's laughter reverberated, an unnatural symphony that echoed through the chamber. To face your demons, to embrace them. You cannot move forward until you dwell in the depths of your darkest truths. As the shadows swelled, the flickering light dimmed, wrapping them both in a suffocating void. Ethan could only feel the weight of the choice pressing against him. Would it damn them both to eternal darkness, or maybe make room for authenticity? Then, from the depths, an anguished scream erupted, neither from the figure nor from them. It was a sound that froze blood, a shriek of past life and fractured dreams. The ground shook violently. Echoes reverberated like a violent crashing wave. Make your move, the figure shouted, blending laughter with ferality. The moment has come. Will you yield to the shadows or dive deep to reclaim your light? Ethan's chest constricted. The terror gripped him as the chamber began to splinter. What will you choose? Echoed both the dark and light, a haunting reminder of the price of their memories. And before they could formulate an answer, the ground beneath them trembled, swallowing them into the darkness that awaited, promising revelations buried in dread. For once more, silence fell, thick and oppressive. But something else stirred, a pulse of energy not from the darkness, but from a forgotten strength. Would it unravel the tangled threads of their past, or would it lead them to an even deeper abyss? The darkness wrapped around them like a shroud, but amidst the chaos, a flicker of courage ignited within the ghost hunter. He stood up, chest rising and falling with fierce determination. We are not afraid! His words crashed through the oppressive silence, like a shot fired in the dark, reverberating in the shadows. We stand together! The figure that loomed before them shuddered, the shadows quivering in response to their resolve. Ethan took a deep breath, the air thick with tension, and stepped forward, echoing the ghost hunter's sentiment. We've faced too much to back down now. Our fear won't own us anymore. The dim light pulsed synchronously with their united voices, growing stronger like a heartbeat gaining momentum. In that second, memories flooded back, the bonds they forged, the laughter shared, and the love that outweighed their darkest moments. Ethan could see Sarah's smiling face, her warmth and kindness pulling him back from the brink. Let us remember the light in each other, he shouted, and with that, he began to recall the beautiful moments they once shared, The park, the laughter, the games. He remembered her hope, and the way her spirit lit up the suffocating darkness. "Remind yourselves?" the ghost hunter encouraged, his voice reverberating with urgency. "Feed off each other as strength. Whatever darkness that controls our minds, we can break." The collective tension stilled. Shadows crept towards them, slowly dissipating as warmth replaced their icy grip. It was a delicate dance. As their light brushed against each terrifying specter, each scream once woven into the darkness began to soften, fading into whispers of regret instead of terror. "Join us, be part of the void," the figure hissed, attempting to divert their gaze back to despair, but the strength of their memories broke through like sunbeams piercing through clouds. "No!" they screamed in unison, their voices a powerful declaration of defiance, breaking the hold the darkness had over them. It was as if love hummed through their veins, igniting the flicker of hope into a blazing fire. The shadows shrieked in a cacophony of rage, thrashing violently. "You will never find peace," it yelled, its form twisting in desperate fury. "Together, we can confront this," the ghost hunter cried, brandishing the light emanating from their joined hearts. They stood rooted, unwavering, hands clasped, hearts racing in unified rhythm against the darkness. They pressed on, determined to carve a new fate from the remnants of despair. And then, the light glimmered brighter, almost blinding as it surged outward, shattering the stillness and aiming directly at their haunted enemy. With an earth-shaking roar, the shadows writhed and twisted, reforming as the figure screamed, fracturing into thousands of echoes, each splintered piece crumbling under the sheer force of their collective resolve. A pulse of energy surged around them, like tidal waves crashing and washing away the remnants of their fears. They felt weight lifting, as if the chains binding them to anxiety were shattering. Ethan blinked through the blinding light, finding himself standing in the clearing. The park, golden sunlight pouring through, was restored. The sounds of laughter echoed again, but it was no longer garbled by screams. The air felt clean, fresh, tinged with hope and familiarity. One by one, their friends emerged from the shadows that once held them captive. Relief washed over him like a soft breeze, tears brimming at the edges of his eyes. In that moment, they all shared a look of victory, haunted past stripped away. They had faced the darkness together and emerged into the dawn, learning fear didn't own them. Love did. As they huddled together, laughing and embracing one another, the ghost hunter offered a gentle smile, his eyes glinting with pride. "We are stronger than any shadow, and that's a truth worth holding on to." In the distance, the sun began to dip below the horizon, but that warmth grew brighter as they looked upon each other, recognizing their resilience. With stories to share, connections to strengthen, and a new path to walk hand in hand, they each took a deep breath, ready to step forward into a life defined by light, knowing darkness would always exist but could never truly conquer them again. They wandered back, their laughter intertwining with the calm evening breeze, a symphony of resilience echoing through the fields as night descended. It was a new beginning, and this time, they would never walk alone again. And as this story closes, remember, strength exists in connection, and courage thrives in vulnerability. Now, let us not forget to keep this journey alive. You need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and support your favorite community. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. What did you think of the ending? Let us hear all about it. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support means everything.